All right. Good evening. I know y'all are having so much fun. Y'all love what I wrote on the board, don't you? 60-minute time test in class midterm. And it's going to be very interesting in midterm. The midterm is going to consist of 10 questions worth 5 points apiece. It'll be either true, false, multiple choice, or short answer, fill in the blank kind of thing. You will have 5 essay questions that will be worth 10 points apiece. So together it's worth 100 points. The top half is 50, the bottom half is 50. Makes sense? 15 questions. The reason I'm telling you this now is that you have from now until 2 weeks from tonight to study. Your quizzes are now open for you to review. All right? I'm being nice for a change.
But
I've
the
been.
question's going to come from what we've already covered on.
Yes, they will be the exact questions that you've already had. They will be randomized. You will not know what you're going to get. You have one attempt only. This test will be a closed book, closed note test. That means you have to know your answers. And if I say define and describe, I don't mean you just giving me the book definition. If I say, what is jailbreak? Or, what is Jailbreak Me 3.0, Anthony? You'll have to know it off the top of your head. What is ice cream sandwich, Austin? You see how tough these questions are going to be off the top of your head. You're not going to be able to just read them out of the book and write them. When I say I want you to know something, I don't want you to verbatim copy and paste out of the book. When I tell you I want to know what Focus 11 attack was, Cameron, what is it? It's a man in the middle attack. Those are the words I'm looking for. If I gave you a comment on your quiz and say, here's what I'm looking for, that's what I want you to be able to define and describe. Does that make sense? When you were defining and describing your Focus 11 attack and you did not say man in the middle, I deducted points. You told me what it did, but you didn't tell me what it was. Does that make sense? I want to know that you know the information. Don't be surprised if I don't throw in more true, false, multiple choice questions that you haven't had. All right? Be very careful with how I write things. Pay very close attention. You only have 60 minutes. That's why I gave you only 15 questions. Your first 10 questions ought to take you no more than 10 minutes. That gives you 10 minutes per each essay question. Does that make sense? Y'all follow along with me? Why I did that? True, false. A click of a button shouldn't take you a minute per question. All right? Pull it all the way to. Thank you. When we talk about these chapters, I want you to have read them before you come into class so that when we discuss it, you can honestly tell me about that chapter. All right? It's not going to be an exciting woohoo, a cheerleader type midterm. I want to prepare y'all to be the best. I found out today, I was at a state regents meeting in which there was one professor out of each cyber or computer science department in every state college there is, public and private, were in attendance. They had a computer science course, they were there. There are only 2 mobile device classes in the state. This is one. The other one is just about to start at OCCC. So I want you to be the ones when you go out, you know your crap. Make sense? Not just that it makes me look good, it makes you look good. That we are teaching you what you need to know here. Now I know there have probably been some professors in classes that you didn't like, didn't care for, and each student has their own favorite professor and favorite class, and we all have our own opinions, right? The problem is, do your opinions count when you get to the field? If you didn't learn something in someone's class, whose fault is it? It's your own. I want you to be able to say, if I said, Mark, what's Droid Dream? I want you to be able to tell me what Droid Dream is. Josh, what is Ginger Break? These are the kind of questions you don't know. Of all the 20 essays that you have, you're going to get 5 of them. So you better buckle down and study those. For your final, I may just take a snippet of something and tell you, and say fill in the blank and tell me what attack this was. Well, if I say only a man in the middle, how many men in the middle attacks have we covered? And if I'm only looking for one specific one, but I'm going to give you more than just man in the middle. I'm going to give you a web proxy set up to intercept HTTP and HTTPS. You can manipulate both HTTP requests and responses between Android application and its endpoints. What attack is this? And you'll need to know it. Does that make sense? Everyone with me? Have I scared you off yet?
It's just kind of hard because we only come to class one night a week and we really don't hit on a lot of stuff. We're kind of left on our own resources to do this among the other classes that we have too. So we kind of, because you mentioned that you like us to read the chapters before we get in there. I don't even know where we're at. I've read the chapters on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I could be behind, I could be ahead. I don't know because I walk in here, I have no clue what we're going to be doing. I don't know.
We're starting chapter 5 tonight.
Okay. And it'd be kind of nice to know ahead of time what we'll be doing so we can prepare for it too. And that's only, I think that's fair.
I usually cover one chapter a week, but I missed that 1 week, and that's why we're at week 5 instead of 6.
Well, last time we were here, you crammed 3 of them together, and I'm like, what's going on? I haven't read chapter 4 yet. So I had no clue what we're going to do.
I was trying to play catch up a little bit on that.
Okay, and
Because
that's why I kind of threw everybody off because we weren't even up to that point yet. People are still taking chapter 3 courses.
I understand what you're saying.
And that's what I'm saying. Just I don't know where we're at half the time here.
We're at chapter 5.
Okay.
Everyone there? We're going to cover basically one chapter a week. So next week, what chapter are you going to have read before you come to class? When is chapter 6 quiz due? Chapter 6 quiz isn't due until like the 22nd of October. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover chapter 5. Next week, I'm going to give you time in class to work in groups. I'm going to give you a mock midterm. It'll be a handwritten. Do what?
Is the midterm just going to cover it through chapter 5 then?
Yes.
Okay.
Because there's only 9 chapters in the book.
Okay.
So basically you already have 54% of the class done. Then the following week, you will have your midterm. The following week, we'll cover chapter 6. So tonight's the last lecture before I cover chapter 6. Well, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Chapter 6 won't be covered until the week before that quiz is due. All right? Is there any questions? All right. Android malware. Roughly 74% of all malware attacks occur on an Android system. Why? Why would y'all think that?
Open sources.
It's open source. It's based on Unix.
You gotta wait for your carrier to update the OS.
Yeah. It's not as up to date as iOS, right?
Google encourages you to take and actually root the phone. And when you root a phone, you open it up to super user.
Google is just a development company. That's why they like doing stuff like that. Droid Dream. All Droid Dream was basically what you've done before. How many of y'all have ever downloaded an app and it says, I need this functionality, your phone book, your GPS, all these kind of stuff? Well, Droid Dream was the first one that kind of attacked that idea. It looked at those settings and it gave, basically you were giving them permission to root your system and to take control over your system. That's what Droid Dream was about. What it did, it would send the IMEI, IMSI, the product ID, and the, what was the other one? I forget the name. The partner ID to this remote server. With that information, I could take over your phone and listen to your phone calls. And they do it via Bluetooth. Okay. Another one that was very similar to that was Nikki Spy. It was more powerful, but it actually allowed me to track you with your GPS. I could even turn on your, when you would turn off your phone, you know, to the black screen, it would turn on the microphone behind it. So it was recording conversations without people knowing it. How freaky is that? Charging it for the night, and then all of a sudden it's recording me through the night. They give nothing but snoring. But that's what Nikki Spy did. Now, the difference between Droid Dream and Nikki Spy is Droid Dream got caught by Google. Droid Dream would take and package different pieces all together as one, so it didn't, Google never caught it when they first uploaded it. Okay? It finally got caught on after people were, about 50,000 to 200,000 people were attacked. You think that's a small amount of number, but when you're talking in the early 2000s, 50,000, 200,000 was not a small number of people, mobile device users. Then we had Nikki Spy, like I said, was taking off on the microphone, but it was never discovered by Google. It did appear in various third-party locations, and it was never put in Google Play. Gee, I wonder why. Because once Google sees it, they take it down, they tell everyone, right? They create the CVE on it. And basically, it was allowing you to use, this application would carry all this weight and being able to pull all these services together, basically become a super user of your phone. Then, its predecessor, or sorry, its successor was SMS Zombie, where it would take control of your phone and send SMS messages to this server, and with all your IMEI, IMSI, and all this information. And it basically came in packaged in wallpaper. So how many people have downloaded wallpaper on your phones or stuff? The only thing I ever really downloaded is social networks like Twitter or Facebook and stuff like that, ones that I can trust and I know. But it was basically an active wallpaper, but so long as there was phone activity, it would sit there until the phone was rebooted. Once you downloaded it and started doing it, you know, you downloaded an app on your computer. What does it say? Restart, comes in, then it starts that service. The service wouldn't start until the phone was reset, so no one would ever catch it. Then it would install on a second application to see about the activity, and it would say, oh, you can get free 100 points if you do this, right? Well, what it was doing is it was using Google Translate to translate the page into making you give it super user power. Kind of tricky, isn't it? I'm playing a game and I want a free 100 points. Oh, sure, I'll accept this. I want the free 100 points. You gave someone else access to your system. And SMS Zombie was good for your messages, your network communication, your personal information, your phone calls, services that you can't, that cost you money, and system tools. Well, gee, why would I want to allow someone that had access to my system tools with my number? Because they can go spend money out of my Google Wallet, right? So these are what malicious applications do. What about Zipmo? All it took is your mobile transition authentication number. And it allowed the consumer's phone, make sure I got this right. It took the communications with your bank for those mobile transactions that you would do and send them to a server.
Does that mean, like, that way, same way it says man in the browser?
Yes. So when you brought up your browser, Tommy, I'm sitting there watching you typing your username, your password, and I get your bank account number and all 10 cents that you have in your bank account because you're a student, right? You're not like Mark who has millions of dollars, you know. I take Mark's millions of dollars.
My wife did.
You know, he's smart. He gives them to his wife, and then he placates it by.
Don't have any.
But that's what basically Zipmo does. It just basically goes around and sends those SMS messages out to the server so they can collect all this data. And they're usually Chinese or Russians or Koreans that are doing all this. Did you know China has a site called China, I believe it's MS, and you can actually go download some of these tools.
It's like Nearsaw.
Do it?
It's like a website, Nearsaw, that you do.
Well, no, this is specific inside of China's borders, but you can go download it. Now, most of these are not going to work because the OSs have been updated beyond what these functions would work. Now, if you jailbreak it and download all the codes, you can actually see and implement your own code. Create an application to change that. That's how people do it. So I'm sure people are looking at iOS 8 right now trying to download the code and figure out how insecure it is and what they're going to do about it. Let's see here. I'm not going to worry about fake token. Basically, all it did was make you think you had a token on your machine. iOS malware. There's not a lot of iOS malware. Why? Because Apple looks at every line of code for every application that is put in iTunes, in the iTunes App Store. They do not trust you. What's worse than spending $29.99 on an app to find out all it is malware? That would kind of stink, wouldn't it? That's when you do the hard reset by holding down the button and the power button, then you take it over to a pawn shop and give it to them and let them have to deal with it. You know, I'm not telling you what to do with your phones now, guys. Let's see here. The only one they've really talked about was what we called iKey. And basically, it was focusing on the 3G network and IP addresses that were on that same range. So it could control different services and different protocols. If you joined it to a network, it could hop that network. That's basically what it did. Because when it first came out, iKey didn't function very well because the network it was attached to was AT&T, and iKey couldn't handle it. Because AT&T was too big. I always thought that was funny. That you have something that's too big for a virus or a worm to handle. But there's different things that they can do. Once you determine that your iOS is having issues, you can go to SSH or do a SSH pass utility, and it will remove the worm from your phone. So that's all it does, because it kills the worms. So what's the difference between Android and iOS besides Apple and everyone when it comes to malware? What is the big difference? Closed sourced, open sourced. What about market share? Who has the bigger market share? Who do y'all think?
Android has the larger hardware cells, but Apple has the larger software cells. Currently, Apple leads.
I don't.
At least Apple's the one who's making money off of it, and Google's running even.
Don't know. The application approval process is stricter with Apple than it is with Android. You can develop an Android app and jump it up. But then with Apple, they take and look at every line of code, make sure the functionality and the security of the system before they attach it to their iOS. They want to make sure it's not going to break their iOS.
And don't you have to take and pay $100 for a developer as well?
I have no idea. I've never tried to develop any apps. I don't have time to. Cameron might. No, he has time this semester to do that. Why don't you ask him maybe?
Don't ask me.
And who do you think has better support for third parties? Third party software. Which system? That'd be Android.
Apple doesn't play well with others.
That's right. So, thus, let's see, third-party sites that sideload apps onto a system. How secure is that? Kind of making sense now, right? Of the footprint that you're leaving. Is there any questions on Chapter 5? After the midterm, we will start talking about mobile services and mobile applications and getting more in depth with how they interact with each other. Now you kind of understood what an iOS is and how it can be dealt with, and you have an Android, now you know how it's dealt with, and a Windows Phone, you know how it's dealt with. Now we talked a little bit about the malware attacks and software, how unsecure they really are. How many of you are afraid to turn your phones on now?
I gotta do it. What if I get in a car accident? I gotta call.
Have someone else call it. Yell someone, dial 911. If you're in the car wreck, what's the likelihood you're going to be awake enough to call?
Not very likely.
Seriously, think about it. We all did the premise that we were originally that we were going to use it because if we got in a car wreck, we would need our phone. How many people, Denny, have you shown up on wrecks that the person that was driving the car that ran off the side of the road is actually calling you? What would you think the percentage would be from what you've seen? Do what? No, like, I'm not talking about like a flat tire on the side of the road. I mean like you have a multi-car collision on 35. Who's going to be the one calling? It's usually someone that's come up to the first one right after the accident, pulls off the side of the road, calls 911 to report it, and then goes to try to render aid. That's usually who's calling. It's not the people in the wreck that are still stunned and shocked by the wreck. So the excuse that everyone had to begin with is, oh, I'm going to have it just in case I get in a wreck. Well, what if you total your car and flip your car over? You think you're going to be the mindset to pick up your phone, or maybe even if you can find your phone?
A majority of the people just take and toss it on the dash or in the seat next to them. They don't keep it on their person.
And even if you keep it on your person, it could fall out. You know, if you're flipping, it can come right out of your pocket. So, I mean, seriously, who's the one that's going to be calling 911? It's not going to be you. So is it that important to text and drive? Yeah, there's a good analogy for you, right?
Absolutely. Right.
You know, why do you need the phone while you're driving? Only if you come up on an accident, or, you know, if you run off the side of the tree and you're in the middle of the night in the country road out in the middle of boondocks, what even the chance you're going to have a signal?
I got one because I got dragged out for being late for work once because I didn't have a cell phone and I couldn't call for help.
And you know what? There's no law requiring you to have a cell phone. That's all. That would have been my response. Show me the law that requires me to have a cell phone. But you know, now everyone's almost expected to have a mobile device because you hardly ever see a house phone anymore. Because we have to have that constant need of communication. Well, that constant need of communication can really get you in a world of hurt when it comes to security. I don't know. How many of y'all have kids? You know, I know that probably the four of us do. I can't tell you the number of times my son has come up and I can't even put locks on my phone now. He figures them out. He's going to be dangerous.
That's a good thing or bad.
Wendy put one of those, you know, the little 9-digit that have the 9 spots on there. And you had the swipe one where you create a design. He figured that out in 2 days. It's a backwards Z, Mom. What? What's a backwards Z, son? Oh, this. So she's changed it. She did an N. He figured that one out. I told her to do an A. See if he figured it out. You know, go up and then like this. But then you have to come back up and then back over, and it didn't want to work. But it was, so just do some freaky design, or he'll figure it out. And I'm not saying that to brag on my son. I'm just saying it doesn't take that much to figure it out. If you only have those 9 digits, there's only so many shapes that you can do. First thing people are going to do are going to do the alphabet, then numbers. I've seen someone where all they did was 1, straight down the center. So that's the first one I even try. Maybe the one on the left, and maybe be the second one I try. Someone did an O. Yeah. Then I'll just wait 5 minutes and try it again. After about the 5th time, it resets it for 60 minutes. And then by then I get tired of it. I just hook it up with Celebrite and take care of it.
Better use rubber ducky.
Most of them don't have it directly to it, but
I've got an adapter for it. Goes from the regular USB port down to the mini USB.
but if you're locked out of it, you can't get in there to run your eject.bin. It will not run any applications until you've logged in.
I've seen on Hack 5 where they had the phone locked and was able to take and plug the USB port into it.
Because they had an application running, they just locked it. But if you time it out to the 60 minutes like I was talking about, there's no way to do it.
Okay.
Just because you lock it, you can still bypass it, but you have to have a password encryptor to... First, what you do is you have to... What they probably did is they already had the hash coded in there from previous attempts.
Okay.
So all they did was inject that hash, and then, oh, there you go. Any other questions, items, concerns? How many of y'all are scared about the midterm now? 1, 2, 3, 4. The rest of you in the back room are not. Everyone on the front row is.
You told us what to study, so.
I studied for it.
Yeah, whole book.
Read the first 5 chapters. Know them thoroughly. Know them backwards and forwards. Make sure you understand and, words, and buts. Make sure you understand commas. If I remove a comma, does that make the sentence true or false? No, I'm not going to be that mean. Now, if y'all tick me off, I might be that mean on the final. No,
Is the deal with the final changed yet, or
what deal?
you said if we take all the quizzes and tests from beginning to end, we don't have to take the final,
Mm-hmm.
unless we wanted to. So
Mhm.
if it would become mandatory.
Why do you think the midterm's harder? Do what?
I got it recorded right.
Oh, I know. I was just trying to remember which deal he's talking about because I made different deals with different classes. So, but then again,
I'm taking the final.
your final will not make up for your midterm grade. So, final is comprehensive.
But I won't have to take it and do all my homework and this midterm.
Yeah. How are y'all coming on your projects? Huh?
So wasn't I supposed to get English first?
That's why I was wanting to know how y'all coming on the project. In case it's still not working for me. I'm waiting for them, once they give me the port opened up, it'll validate my in case and then I can make the images. So I've been waiting 2 weeks now.
I just thought I missed something when you asked that. Oh,
No, I haven't given you the images to play around with yet.
okay.
I hadn't forgotten. It's all my things to do.
Okay.
I'm just waiting on other people.
Just making sure.
You can't just open the port yourself.
I can. It's on the network switch. I don't know why they blocked it to begin with, but they did. It's probably a well-known port. I don't know what the port number is anyway, so I just be guessing. I just undo my entire access control list so everyone can access my computer.
That's good.
Do what?
That's a great idea.
I would do it for only a couple seconds so I can let it negotiate with the server so I get my license and then shut it back down. And then I would shut something off I'm supposed to keep on and make a lot of fun for myself.
I think you'd be able to figure it out.
So I'm mildly disappointed with myself after taking a class last semester.
Do what?
So I'm mildly disappointed with myself after taking a class last semester.
You're mildly disappointed in yourself.
Yes.
Why?
Oh, because I found out that I had my computer become a Chinese zombie this week.
Ah.
I'm not sure how it happened.
I'm pretty sure I know how it happened. You clicked on something you weren't supposed to.
Shame.
You haven't learned anything from my class, so I'll just go ahead and fail you now so we can get it done and over with.
I have not been clicking on anything.
That you know of.
They've been taking it offline all the time.
It was Tommy.
Yeah.
He did it.
Yeah, because I wanted to do that.
All right. No questions on the midterm? Remember, next week I'm going to have a mock midterm in here, so you're going to be ready for it,
Is that gonna be
right?
like our review?
Oh, okay.
I'll have it on a sheet of paper, turned upside down on your desk. I will open the door at 5:40. You'll come in. You'll take it. Except I'm only going to have like 10 or 10 questions on it. Then you'll have like 45 minutes to do it. Then once everyone gets it done, then I'll go over the answers with you of what I'm looking for.
Are those going to be the same questions on the actual?
No. Same style of questions. So you can kind of get used to how the questions will be worded. And a time pressure crunch. No questions, items of concerns, gripes, amendments, complaints? No? All right. See you next week.